The Leader of the Opposition thinks that maternity pay is excessive and would go back to the failment that puts hundreds of thousands of children into poverty.
Can be made and not the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I echo the sentiments of the Prime Minister? The thoughts of the whole House will rightly be with the family of Lance Corporal Hooley, who tragically died supporting Ukraine in her fight for freedom. Can the right honourable gentleman tell the House why are his own MPs describing him as a caretaker Prime Minister?
Mr. Speaker, my own MPs are very proud we've just passed a budget which protected our public services and our NHS. No austerity which brought our NHS to the ground.
Right. Buckle up, because what unfolded at Prime Minister's questions this week was not your standard parliamentary tea party. No. This was Keir Starmer channeling his inner prosecutor, absolutely eviscerating Nigel Farage and Reform UK with a kind of surgical precision that would make a heart surgeon jealous. We're talking a parliamentary demolition job so thorough that the House Speaker had to step in like a referee at a boxing match where one fighter's already on the canvas. Chaos, accusations of white supremacy, Caribbean deportation suggestions, and something called DOGE that has absolutely nothing to do with Elon Musk's government efficiency obsession. This is British politics at its most gloriously unhinged, and honestly, I'm here for every single second of it. Quick favor, if you're loving this already, smash that subscribe button. Over 94% of you wonderful viewers haven't yet. It's completely free, takes literally 2 seconds, and genuinely means a world to us here at British Mirror. Cheers if you did. Right, back to the carnage. So let us set the scene, shall we? Westminster, midweek, Prime Minister's questions in full swing. The chamber's packed, the benches are heaving, and there's that unmistakable electricity in the air that only happens when someone's about to get absolutely roasted on national television. Enter Jim Dickson, Labour MP for Dartford, who stands up with what can only be described as a question so loaded it might as well have come with a health and safety warning. He wants to talk about Reform UK's running of Kent County Council, and more specifically, their brilliant scheme they've dubbed DOGE. Now, before your mind wanders to cryptocurrency or that Shiba Inu meme, let me stop you right there. According to Dickson, DOGE actually stands for something far more creative, deluded, overconfident, gormless, and embarrassing. Honestly, you cannot write this stuff. Well, technically Dickson just did, but you know what I mean. The chamber erupts. Of course it does. Because calling a political party's flagship policy deluded, overconfident, gormless, and embarrassing in front of the entire House of Commons is a parliamentary equivalent of walking into someone's birthday party and telling them their cake tastes like cardboard. It's brutal. It's personal. It's absolutely magnificent. And Keir Starmer, bless him, seizes this moment like a man who's been waiting his entire political career for permission to let loose. Starmer stands up, adjusts his papers with that characteristic lawyer energy, and essentially agrees with everything Dickson just said. He tells the House that Dickson sums up very well how his community has been utterly let down by reform, which, in parliamentary speak, is the equivalent of saying, yeah, what he said, and also, let me pile on. This is where things get absolutely spicy, because Starmer's not done. Oh no, he's just warming up his engines. Now, here's where the gloves truly come off, and we enter what historians might call the absolute carnage phase of this particular Prime Minister's questions. Starmer pivots from Kent County Council's alleged incompetence to Nigel Farage himself, referring to him as a member for Clecton, which is technically correct but also deliciously formal in a way that makes everything sound more scathing. Starmer says, and I quote, "While the member for Clecton is making excuses about his behavior at school, look at what his party are doing across the country." Right. Let us unpack that sentence for a moment, because it is absolutely dripping with implication. Starmer's essentially saying that while Nigel Farage is busy playing the victim card over whatever school-related controversy he is currently embroiled in, his party is out there causing absolute mayhem nationwide. It is the political equivalent of telling someone to worry less about their own problems and more about the dumpster fire they have created in their backyard. Devastating stuff, really. But Starmer's not finished. Not even close. He mentions the chaos in Kent again, just to really hammer that particular nail into the coffin, before moving on to Hampshire. And this is where the story takes a turn that makes you wonder whether we have somehow stumbled into a particularly dark episode of a political satire show. Starmer references Reform's mayoral candidate in Hampshire who apparently suggested that Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy should, and I am quoting here, go back to the Caribbean. Let that sink in for a moment. A political candidate in 2025 Britain suggested that a sitting Deputy Prime Minister should be deported because of his ethnicity. I mean, honestly, what century are we living in? It is the kind of statement that is so breathtakingly racist that it barely even qualifies as a dog whistle anymore. It is more like someone just picked up a megaphone and started shouting racial slurs in the town square. Absolutely disgraceful, and Starmer's weaponizing it with the precision of a heat-seeking missile. The chamber's atmosphere shifts. You can feel it. This is no longer just political point scoring. This is serious. Because when you start talking about racism, about telling British politicians to go back somewhere, you are touching on something far deeper and far more toxic than parliamentary squabbles about council budgets. Starmer knows it. Everyone in that chamber knows it. And the fact that he is laying this at Reform's door, directly connecting it to Farage's party, is significant. But wait, there is more, because apparently Reform UK's greatest hits compilation was not yet complete. Starmer then moves on to Staffordshire, where Reform's leader, he claims, has been exposed as a white supremacist. Now, that is a term you do not throw around lightly in British politics. White supremacist. Not just someone with dodgy views. Not just someone who said something inappropriate once. A white supremacist. Someone whose entire ideology is built on the belief that white people are inherently superior to other races. That is what Starmer's accusing Reform Staffordshire leader of being. The implications are staggering. Because if true, and Starmer's saying this on the parliamentary record, so he better be confident in his sources, it means Reform UK has a genuine, actual white supremacist in a leadership position. Not someone who once made an off-color joke. Not someone with controversial views. A white supremacist, running part of a political party that sits in the House of Commons. That is not normal political controversy. That is a genuine crisis of legitimacy for any party claiming to represent mainstream British values. And then Starmer delivers his knockout punch, the line that ties everything together into one devastating indictment. He says, "It's not a coincidence, Mr. Speaker, because chaos and division is a member of Clecton's life work." That sentence right there is political assassination by 1,000 words. Starmer's essentially saying that everything Reform UK is doing, all the chaos in Kent, the racist comments in Hampshire, the white supremacists in Staffordshire, it all flows directly from Nigel Farage himself. That this is not a party with a few bad apples. This is a party whose entire purpose, whose very DNA, is built on creating chaos and division. It is an extraordinary accusation to make on the floor of the House of Commons. Because Starmer's not just saying Farage is wrong on policy or ineffective as a leader. He is saying that Farage's entire political career, everything the man has ever done, has been about tearing Britain apart rather than building it up. That Brexit, the UKIP years, Reform UK, all of it has been one long exercise in sowing discord for personal political gain. That is not a policy disagreement. That is a fundamental character assassination. Now, here's where things get properly dramatic. The House Speaker, Lindsay Hall, clearly decides that things have escalated quite enough. Thank you very much. According to reports and the dramatic framing of this whole affair, the Speaker essentially steps into calm proceedings, likely reminding MPs about parliamentary language and decorum. The implication that Starmer got kicked out is probably parliamentary theatrics translated through the media filter, but the point stands. Things got heated enough that the Speaker felt intervention was necessary. But let us be absolutely clear about what actually happened here. This was not Starmer losing his temper or going rogue. This was calculated. This was deliberate. This was a Prime Minister who decided that Nigel Farage and Reform UK needed to be put firmly in their place, and he was going to use Prime Minister's questions as a vehicle to do exactly that. Every accusation, every example, every reference was clearly prepared, researched, and delivered with maximum impact. Why now, though? Why this particular PMQs? Well, timing is everything in politics. Reform UK has been riding high in certain polls, positioning themselves as the anti-establishment alternative, the party that speaks for forgotten Britain. They have been making inroads in council elections, building local power bases, and generally becoming a more significant threat to both Labour and the Conservatives. Starmer, being the strategic thinker he is, clearly decided that allowing reform to build that reputation unchallenged will be dangerous. Better to define them now, on his terms, than wait until they define themselves. And what a definition it was. Deluded, overconfident, gormless, embarrassing, racist, white supremacist, chaotic, divisive. That is not a political party. That is a rolling disaster area with parliamentary representation. By the time Starmer finished, Reform UK's carefully cultivated image as a sensible alternative had been thoroughly torched. Whether it sticks or not remains to be seen, but you cannot deny the ambition of the attempt. The thing about Nigel Farage is that he has always been Teflon-coated. Nothing sticks. Controversies that would end other political careers barely leave a mark on him. He laughs them off, plays the victim, claims the establishment is out to get him, and his supporters love him even more for it. So Starmer's strategy here is interesting. He is not going after Farage directly as much as he is going after the party around him. He is painting Reform UK as institutionally problematic, not just one charismatic leader with dodgy views. That is much harder to deflect. The broader context here matters too. British politics is in a weird place right now. Labour's in government, but their honeymoon period is long over. The Conservatives are in disarray, still recovering from their election defeat and trying to figure out what they even stand for and more. Reform UK is positioning itself as a real opposition, the party asking the questions others will not ask. And into this fragmented landscape, Starmer drops his parliamentary bomb, reminding everyone that Reform might ask uncomfortable questions, but they also harbour some deeply uncomfortable people. The reaction has been predictably split along partisan lines. Labour supporters are thrilled, seeing it as Starmer finally showing some fire and taking the fight to Reform. Reform supporters are outraged, claiming it is all smears and establishment attacks on the only party brave enough to challenge the status quo. Conservatives are probably just relieved someone else is getting hammered for once. And the broader public, well, they are likely somewhere in the middle, trying to figure out what is actually true versus what is political theatre.